Greg Willoughby.
Here.
Okay. June, July, August, September minutes.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made and second, we approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Do I need to sign all of them? You got them? Comments from the audience? You don't have anything today? Dave, you don't have anything? How's our program with the Razorback ball games going? Can you come up and talk about it a little bit? Because we haven't had any updates lately.
So the first game was very successful. We had over 20 aircraft that were there on the field, and everybody was really happy with it. With people, with the team losing, we've seen a little bit of a decline in the traffic that's been coming to it. But this past weekend, we were actually very busy on the ramp. So we're hoping with that
That's
couple.
more Auburn fans, probably.
Actually, there was a lot more of our local traffic, I think, going through it, but we did have a few came in and got their cars and stayed over the weekend. We're noticing traffic is picking up again at the airport, and we're staying very busy. Also, for the month of November, we're going to be CAA approved, which is Corporate Aircraft Association. We did get the approval. All the pilots are the ones that vote on that to see which FBOs that they want to have it, and it offers them a discount for flying in.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? If not, James?
All right, for grounds, we're hoping to be done mowing this week. Hoping this hard freeze this week, you won't take care of the grass. We had a sign that was damaged down on Robinson. The wind tore the sign that was on the fence, so we've got that taken down. We're going to repair them and put them back up. Got a few renters that I'm going to have to get with Sarah on because the Howard is way behind again. And on the next item, Jeff Mann, he's in large-scale development. They've got a lot of questions for him, so he's resubmitting all his answers to them. Hopefully he'll be ready to build pretty soon. So, getting through large scale.
First of all, James and I were talking before the meeting. I've had some criticism of our signs on that chain link fence. Wasn't really, people don't think that that's really a good gesture on the part of the airport. Talking about maybe getting some posts and elevate them above the fence and put them standalone. As you know, those signs are attached to that fence in the corner there. So, anybody have a thought on that?
What would they be, just inside on our property and just barely inside the fence line?
Has to be on the outside.
Okay, it has to be on the
It'll just
outside.
be basically touching the fence.
I'm not so sure by code that you can have a permanent sign attached to the fence anyway.
I don't know. It's not really a good thing. I was embarrassed with some people that pointed that out to me, my wife for one. And
I'll get with Garver too to make sure we're not going to violate any airspace putting them there.
well,
Or
you
in
know,
the
you
field.
wouldn't have anything as high as the
Stoplights.
antenna. And then you have stoplights there, road signs.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I would check with them. Anybody have any objection to that, or just tell James to go for it, or what do you suggest?
I wonder while they're down being repaired or updated, should we just leave them down until we maybe get a final decision on it, or?
I think we ought to just go ahead and get them back up.
Wouldn't take much to,
Well, it won't take
Four
much to
posts
fix them.
and-
Only need 3 posts, won't you?
Well, if you put it right on the corner.
Yeah. Can it not be done that way? It'd brace it,
Make them more solid.
right?
Take care of that for us?
Glad to.
Thank you.
I think we probably ought to pull a signed permit like everybody else does to make sure that what we
Right.
put up is going
Yeah, not any
to meet all the
violation.
guidelines.
Yeah. We don't want to take them down after we get them up.
James, as far as the wind goes with that, any damage on any hangars or anything from the strong winds we had?
No. The only damage was that sign.
Any other question for James?
On your remote control operators of the gate,
Yes. We've only had one taker on that. Everybody else has said it's too high. They don't want to pay that much money for a remote.
Really?
Said they'd rather roll their window down for $100. I'm enjoying it, so.
Okay, yeah. Well, maybe it'll catch on. How many people know about it?
I've talked to several, and then I've got flyers up in the FBO for the pilots to see.
Okay. I have to lower the price on them
I
then.
thought initially there was a lot of excitement about it.
There was, but there was no money amount mentioned because I didn't know what we might charge.
What did we decide our cost was? 37,
32 per remote.
32?
It was $50 refund when it was turned in,
Right.
so it was,
Okay. Anything else? If not, activity report, Wyman?
the operations are still remaining pretty high. We've set a record month for every month except January this year. Look at the last 4 years. Activities staying pretty high consistently every month. The fuel goes up and down based on when she's gonna buy it, but overall, I think the fuel sales are up. They've sold about 417,000 gallons. Got your balance sheet, which shows the balance in the bank account, about 218,000. And the revenue for the year were 44,000 ahead.
Any question for Wyman? I'm sure we'll find places to spend that. While we're on that subject, I've not been able to get any results on our enclosing hangar. I struck out on the guy who did the others. I think he just finally told me no. So, but there's one in Lowell I'd like to pursue, a company there. And other than that, there's plenty of, start fresh, start with new design or whatever to see what they say. And then I'll report back if that's good. I was supposed to have an answer on that about 2 months ago, and it just hadn't worked out. I thought it'd be a slam dunk. But since we already had an example, it hadn't worked that way. On the airport restaurant status, we had given 60-day notice, right, Wyman?
Right, under the lease, we were required to give a 60-day notice that we were terminating the lease. Failed to reach any agreement with the new operator on furniture, fixtures, and changeovers, so we issued the
Where are we at on that 60 days?
end of November is the case.
And there was a suggestion about making it easy for him to get that equipment out of there, and one example was to one suggestion was to cut the rail on the outside and put a gate on it, but I was afraid that would weaken that point that
I
it
think we
might
can go over the top of the rail.
take it over the top. And so we'll be looking forward to that, and I'm sure it'll go right to the wire on it.
I spoke to him yesterday, and he said he's planning on being out in the middle of November.
Oh, well, that's good.
And the big piece of machinery, the triple door refrigerator, is what he tore the wall up going up with, he's not taking out, so
Gonna leave it. They made a deal on that.
I don't think they made a deal, he's donating it to him.
Oh.
To move it.
Okay, sounds good. That's good news. Any other questions on the airport restaurant status?
What's the time frame of them getting opened up and running?
I talked to her and she, a couple of weeks ago, and they're gonna start putting their stuff in December and hoping to have a soft start by the first of the year. The way I understood her,
Breakfast and lunch?
breakfast and lunch, and then, just to start out, and then, on weekends, evenings. But, by the 1st of January, they hope to be up and going.
They're thinking Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
And then breakfast and lunch,
The rest of the time.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Yeah.
closed, which day? Were they going?
Sunday.
Oh, Sunday.
Do we have in the works to get a shingle for the sign for them?
I told her to get a hold of the sign company.
Any other questions on the restaurant? Land acquisition. We have 6 properties that have been appraised, total of 701,000, 3 remaining. Is that right? Yes. And we have paid most of the appraisal fee, still have a balance on it. It looks like it's gonna come right in what we estimated originally. We had done some fair market appraisal on it, though, just, cursory appraisals, which are pretty close, so. But, I don't know, did they say when they would have the others completed? Certainly the next meeting, I'm
Been
sure.
moving pretty quick on them, so I think the next week or two they'll have the others finished.
So you have a list of them in front of you there. I had Rose to add that up, come to 701.
The next step would be to decide whether you want to proceed with all of them or just part of
Right.
it and go to the review appraisal.
Right. Be nice to buy them all, and then if some people back off of it, then at least we can zero in on what we deem is the best. I think we all know we don't have to have all of it. And even though it'd be good to have, the appraisals are being done where we can pick up the others later on. They'll still have the work has been done and paid for. Any more questions on the land?
Am I reading this correctly? There's 3 properties here that are not listed on this?
Yes.
And, okay.
Is there 3 or are there 4? Are there?
I thought there's 9 total.
There's 3.
Well, wait a minute, that 5 has what we considered 3 different properties, wasn't it? You look at, 5 is, 2 of the properties have a 5 on it because they're owned by the same people, and it's just, the house is out of that 10 acres.
What is the little piece just south of 3? What is that little square? Is that a piece? And then what is immediately east of 3? Is that a piece?
3?
Right here.
And then the 2 on Emma?
That's a
It's
store.
6.
No, that's a store there.
Is
That's
6,
just a
yeah,
house.
does 6 dog leg?
No, that's just that second house. As you're coming from past the runway, going west, that's that second house.
But does 6 go all the way up to,
Is it kind of
see,
an,
there's one parcel number here,
Right.
which would be, this has a parcel number.
is
See
it,
this number right here?
Yeah.
That would, I think,
Yeah.
correspond to this.
okay, so 6 is kind of an L-shaped piece?
Yes,
Okay,
got a panhandle on it.
yes.
It'd be good to know what the total is, and then we can start working on them. We'll have a little better map and, a little more detail of what we're talking about next meeting, hopefully.
I'd recommend that, going this far, that we go ahead and do the review appraisal. Wait too long, then there'll be other sales that will
It'll be-
cloud the work that he's done on this one.
Sure. I don't know what the timing, how much time you've got on that, do you? Do you know? Could we call Kathy and ask her? How much time you have to have the review appraisal? I mean,
Well,
are you talking
what I'm
within the
saying-
next 6 months, within the next month?
What I'm saying is that he looks at comparable sales to
Sure.
come up with that appraisal in the area. And if we wait a long time to do the review appraisal, there'll be other comparable sales that the reviewer may look at and say, now that I've got more information, I think your appraisal is,
But my
Lower too high.
my question is, what is a long time? I mean, when, are you saying we need to do it within the next 6
Judgment.
months, next 3 months, next, pardon me?
judgment call. Well, you
I
can't,
understand that, but I'm just saying, we definitely wouldn't want to wait 6 months, I don't think.
can't talk to the property owner until you've had the review appraisal.
Right. So, as soon as we get this one in and we can look at it, then we can just proceed with the review appraisal.
You want me to go ahead and see if I can find a
Sure.
appraiser that will do the review and get a proposal from him?
I would suggest that, yes. Anybody have any objection to that? I don't remember, have to look back on the minutes, what we said about that. But didn't we kind of indicate we accepted both initially, to do both of them, so there would be no reason to postpone it.
Right.
Unless these things just came out, something that was totally unaffordable. So, okay. I think that'd be a good move. Any objections? We have city engineers here. There's a suggestion because of the Spring Creek drainage, the engineers and city are kind of wanting to see what our thoughts were on using part of the airport property for detention ponds, and so we talked a little bit about that. You've got a map out here on the back page of it, and I'm gonna talk about what you told me for the meeting to clarify that. You see, 2 orange colored squatches, one on either side of the airport runway. And one, the long one, is over right in line pretty much with the extension of that taxiway. I guess it runs parallel and just inside it. Is that what the pink lines denote?
Yeah. The red lines are supposed to represent your proposed taxiway.
And then over on the west side of the runway, you see a smaller version. Now, what the understanding is these are proposed either or not both, or a scaled-down version of both of them in the case you wanted to use both areas. So I definitely would not want to see one over on the west side. And so I guess that would leave an option if we want to talk about that east side as well, as far as I'm concerned. But they're showing that to come right up to the edge of the taxiway, as you can see. And it's right in that area that we're wanting to develop. There is a little hazard problem there. I know when we had that cut over there on the east side, the old landfill that's come back to haunt us several times on that taxiway. We had an airplane in there on its top one flip one time. So I don't know even how the FAA feels about detention ponds in close proximity to the runway. That's gonna be easy to find out. But that might even be something that they frown on. So I think what, well, I'll let you go ahead and talk, but I think what we're talking about is, would we put our blessing on it should this be the case? Am I right?
Yeah. Essentially, the city council asked us to run this study. We're just finishing up new floodplain mapping for Washington County. And the suggestion was that while they have all the computer models loaded, this would be a time to take a look at any improvements to Spring Creek. The issue is that there's a floodplain through the middle of downtown that's being promoted for revitalization, and so that's not usually a good marketing message to, well, we're promoting downtown, but oh, by the way, you're gonna have to buy flood insurance. So that's what we're working on. The intent was to get enough, try and find enough detention on existing city properties that would put all of that water back completely in the channel and under the box culvert that runs under downtown. And so they found that at these two locations, they looked at a third one upstream and it didn't provide enough detention. So they looked at these two locations and determined, yes, those locations had enough potential that we could take a look at them. That's essentially all this report did, was say, where might we be able to provide some detention to do enough good to help us downtown. They're currently, I've asked the engineer for probable construction costs because that's usually the first thing that I get asked. So all this is a conceptual plan that says there are a couple of locations on the airport property that could provide detention. They were given the FAA requirements and asked to review those and make sure that you could do this in compliance with that. They've said yes, but we haven't gotten any further down the road. We're just trying to get everybody on the same page right now.
We don't,
Square foot, dimensions, what that looks?
I don't know anything about, it hadn't been designed. It's just, they would have put a detention volume in their model. And then depending on what they can work with for the dirt work is kind of where the elevation would set the elevation. So the next step is, if this is something we want to pursue, while we can have them start doing preliminary design on something, but before we spend any more money with them, we said, let's put everybody in the loop.
Once these are established, they're forever.
yes.
Yes.
So if once they're there, that basically is saying we relinquish the right to have use for that land.
Probably. You could fill them in, but that would affect the downtown floodplain. So if
Would
there
we
was-
have to come back to the city to ask if we needed to do that?
I don't know. That's a city, airport commission, city council question.
FAA guidelines are covered on the page before the map, top half of the page. There's what restrictions and guidelines that they have in place already on this type of facility. Very preliminary stage of this, but I wanted to bring the Airport Commission up to speed on it and let y'all know what they were looking at.
They say they can go up to 9.5 feet in depth. That's a pretty good size, deep pond out there, say runway. If they use all that, I'm sure they'll go maximum and use as little of the area as they can. That was the way I would do it.
Excuse me, May I ask a question?
Yes, come up.
My name's Patrick Cameron. The question I've got is, what would the effect on birds in the area be with this water? Would
Backs
that?
of birds.
Yeah, I'd hate to
Well,
increase.
I think that, yes, that's a good question, but I think to answer your questions, is this has to be out within 30 hours. The runoff, it would have to.
Oh, it's
bleed it.
not a standstill
No, no,
pond?
no. There's a difference in a retention and detention.
Okay,
You're thinking of retention.
Retention,
where it
yeah.
actually a pond, yeah.
okay.
No, it wouldn't have any ducks or anything in there.
As a pilot, I don't want to increase the birds.
No, no, and the FAA would definitely frown on that, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead. What do you want from us today?
I think we just wanted to make you aware.
You're just making us aware. Well,
This hasn't been presented to city
I
council.
certainly appreciate that, and at least on my part, because I think for us to just give our blessing to this, we would love to see other options and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And at least in my opinion, I'm just one, but we are aware of it, I guess you say. Anybody have any different thoughts on that?
I'm assuming on the other side of Jones Elementary, the federal housing area back in there, that's been looked at as an option.
Yeah, it won't add any more flood outside of it'll essentially be a flooded volume for the pond only. That's what they're not gonna affect floodplain anywhere else other than downstream from these to try to contract it.
The engineers that's on this project, it's obvious what they're doing. They're looking at if option is available, and that would be a path of least resistance because it's city-owned property, and that's what they would look at first to see if there was city property that was already there, they wouldn't have to go out and condemn property and pick up, but there's certainly other options to this, so certainly we can say that we're aware of it, and there will not be anything done unless we're aware of it for sure. But and they do offer suggestions that the airports do have detention, but they don't say they don't map out the close proximity of the runways and taxiways and stuff like that. So that's something that they'll have to consider and see what the response is back from the FAA. So right now, I wouldn't think it would hinder us in doing any of our planning or anything. You're talking about several years down the road anyway, aren't you?
I would think so.
So. But at this point, we wouldn't be committing to anything. Anybody else have a thought?
I was just, from the standpoint of development for us, the east side is least likely for us to do anything over there.
Hurt the rodeo more than anybody. They'd lose their parking.
Yeah, but
There is room for us to build a hangar on the
on the south end,
north end of the east side.
north in the corner.
Up by our old shop building.
Oh, right here. Yeah, I consider that the south end. South end of this pond.
South end of the project.
South end of the
Yeah.
pond, yeah. That area there, but this part here, because of proximity,
But
is a space that
No room to build anything.
we're not gonna be building or doing anything there.
No, not right now.
From our standpoint, our biggest concern would be the taxiway.
All right. Certainly appreciate you bringing it to our
Okay.
attention. And
Well, I'll probably brief the council if not, probably at the next committee meeting, and just present this report to them and say that you all have seen it, but you have concerns about what it might do to your development plans and if there are any safety issues proximity to the runway.
We just need more information, I think,
Yeah.
before we could make a definitive.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any old business? I covered mine.
I wasn't here last month, but to talk about the sign, I think the sign looks great out there. And the tower actually is better than I had envisioned to begin with. I'm happy with that. Sounds like there's excitement in the city about it, too.
Are we okay on our Powell Street sign? Everything good, staying lit? You know, no issues? Okay.
They've got to come back out and put the covers on the legs to cover up the bolts. I've talked to him a couple times on that, so.
Okay, so the photo
Don't
cell
have
has
photo
not
cell
been
on it?
added yet?
It's burning 24/7?
Thank God it's LED.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with 24/7?
Well, it doesn't do any good during the day.
Huh?
It doesn't
Oh,
do any good
in the
during the
daytime,
day.
I'm sorry. I was thinking burning, okay.
Five-year
Just
life on
forget I
bulbs,
said
that's
that. But it is LED, so, yeah, right. I envisioned it turning off in the daytime. I thought you meant it was gonna shut it off part-time at night. I got you. Any other old business? Comments from commissioners? If not, we'll adjourn.